Michael Flynn, he pled guilty to lying to the FBI over a conversation he had with the Russian ambassador. The conversation was completely legal. In fact, it was his responsibility to have the conversation as part of Trump's staff. They say he lied, so they're just charging him with telling a falsehood to the FBI during the questioning about that conversation. Right, the investigation was supposed to be about Russian collusion, Trump's colluding with the Russians to fix the campaign. That investigation at the time was secret, right? They didn't know that investigation was going on. So here's what we now know. We know that Flynn pled guilty to this because he's been in the military his whole life, right? He's a soldier. Hasn't got a lot of money. It would have bankrupted him to have defended himself against it, and his son was also in danger of becoming a legal target. So they threatened him, basically. But before this, now just remember, this is a combat veteran, 3-star general, right? So they bring this before the federal judge Emmett Sullivan, and he's pleading, and the government is saying he shouldn't get any jail time, and he's pleading for that. And Sullivan, who everybody is thinking he's just going to make a decision right away, he says, hold on just a minute. What is going on here? He issued something called a Brady order. Sullivan is a guy who's famous for being suspicious of federal investigators, because he knows they play a lot of games. So he put forward a Brady order, which reminds the prosecution that they have to give the defense all the exculpatory evidence, all the evidence that might prove the defendant not guilty, right? And he saw some of this stuff and he said, wait just a minute, I want to see these documents for myself, okay? Because this is what they found out. And this, by the way, is stuff that the House investigators have been trying to get out of the FBI and the Justice Department all this time, and they've been stonewalling them. And now we know why they've been stonewalling. Here's what they did to 3-star General Michael Flynn, right? The then Deputy FBI Director, Andrew McCabe, who's now been fired for poor behavior, right? McCabe personally called up Michael Flynn and was talking about something else, right? He was talking about some other thing. And he said, oh, by the way, we'd like you to have a sit down with 2 agents to clear up a little bit about this conversation you had with the Russian ambassador, right? And he told Flynn not to have a lawyer present. He didn't want him to have a lawyer present. He said, once you do that, it all gets kind of complicated, and they didn't warn Flynn that it was a crime to lie to the FBI. So he didn't know, for instance, that if he got something wrong just accidentally and could be accused of lying, that he'd be charged with something that he would have to bankrupt himself to defend himself against, right? So none of this did he know. He wasn't given any kind of Miranda. He wasn't given any of that stuff. He was just provided with the entrapment opportunity to commit a crime. Now later, the first thing Flynn said was, oh, I misremembered this. And of course, you're talking to a 3-star general. Why wouldn't you believe him? But they didn't have to believe him because they knew they could pressure him and get him to crack and get him to plead guilty, right? James Comey is bragging about this. Former FBI Director James Comey, one of the agents, by the way, I should also mention, who went over to talk to him was Peter Strzok, the guy we all remember was sending texts to his lovers about how he had to have a plan to get rid of Donald Trump if he got elected. So all of this stuff, I mean, this is real dirty cop stuff.